Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a dumb Karen stole a pair of extremely expensive sneakers from my shop and then shredded them in order to teach me a lesson and destroy my business. Let's dive right into the video. So for the longest time, whenever I thought about my career, I always thought about running my own business. I thought the idea of owning a place and working for yourself was really cool. It was my immediate answer whenever anyone asked me what I wanted to do or be when I grow up. I shuffled through a ton of ideas: cafe, restaurant owner, bakery, basic stuff like that. When I gained internet access, I learned about online shops like Etsy or Redbubble and thought about doing things there too, like making stickers or something. But the unfortunate thing was that I did not have any creative hobby. Not anything I was good at anyway. I could not paint or draw, so Etsy and Redbubble were out. I couldn't make music, I couldn't bake or cook, I really couldn't do anything. Honestly, I'm extremely jealous of anyone who is creative in that way. It's cool as hell, but I just don't have the talent for it. I knew I was not innovative enough to make my own product either, so it was not like I could make money off of that. Besides, I always thought of having a shop more than having a product to sell, so although I was set on the idea of running a business, I was in the dark about what I should do for a long time. However, there was one thing I was good at, and that was sports. In high school, I played sports all year long. I would do tennis, track, soccer, you name it. For these sports, and most I believe, you need very specific shoes: tennis shoes, running shoes, cleats, to name a few. Each athlete has their own specific preference, comfort level and needs for their sport or personal style. I became quite invested in this specific business since I always had to know so much when shopping for shoes myself. As you can guess, the business I eventually settled on was having a sneaker store. The store is for both athletic and casual wear. Athletic shoes would be like running shoes, tennis shoes, even hiking boots, and casual shoes would be sneakers or even sandals. Of course, some of these can be worn for both athletic and casual wear, but I digress. So I started out with a mall kiosk, the kinds you would pass by, that are in the middle of the mall floor, and eventually my business began expanding, and luckily for me, a space in the mall became available. I applied for it and I was granted a lease. Ever since then, that space has been my home. The store is very popular with the kids, and I usually sell affordable pairs like Skechers, Converse, whatever I can get my hands on. Occasionally I have rare stuff on sale, things like limited edition Air Force Ones or Yeezys, but I mostly make sure to cater to the people in my area. Higher prices will only drive them away, not bring them in, and I need every customer I can get. Anyways, I live in a pretty peaceful neighborhood. I don't talk much to my neighbors, but they are alright, except this one lady. We will call her Karen. Karen is an absolute menace. She's just very condescending and always tries to get her way with things. If you don't do something how she wants it done, or does something that she doesn't like, even if it doesn't affect her in any way at all, she will be very upset. She also talks about herself and her family a lot. She never asks anything about anyone else, and the only time she really tries to talk to you is to flex, for lack of a better word. There's not one neighbor I have who has had a pleasant encounter with Karen. I myself have had a fair share of problems with her, even before this incident. Every time she passes by my house and I'm outside, she makes it a point to criticize something like, "The grass is too long, the color needs work, my 15-year-old son can park better than you." So literally anything. For some reason as well, she really hates my business. When Karen first moved in and we were getting to know each other a little bit, before Karen's reputation was established, she asked me if I had a job. I explained that I ran a job at the local mall selling shoes. She was put off by my response and told me straight up that she didn't believe that was really my job. I guess she just assumes that I'm lying about my job and that I'm actually some jobless bum or something, or struggling to make ends meet with a retail job, but I'm really not. I worked hard to get my business to where it is today, and running a business is much more than just ringing people up at the register. Anyways, rant over. Karen does not like my business and has frequently told me so. Oftentimes I just try to ignore her, and she has not done anything too crazy, at least not until this recent incident. So I was in the shop one day. Everything was going as normal. It was mid-afternoon, I think around 4 o'clock, and the store had a decent number of people inside. I would say there were about 24, all looking around, just trying on shoes. As I said, the store is a big hit with the kids, so it was mostly children and their families who were looking around. When I am at the shop, I like to man the register since I like to survey the shop as a whole, so there I was standing at the register, ringing up a customer when Karen walks in. I was honestly very surprised that Karen was there, because as I already established, she does not like my business. I did not pay it any mind though and just continued helping out some customers. I did manage to greet her as she passed by, however, and we made some small talk. Karen was acting overly friendly and talking about how she wanted to get some new shoes for her grandchildren. I asked her whether she wanted a specific type of shoe, what the kids would use it for, what colors, basic things like that. I should have found this suspicious, but I was giving Karen the benefit of the doubt and believed that she might have changed her opinion on my store. And yeah, who am I to drive out a customer, right? Well, she only bought one pair of shoes and left soon after. The day went by pretty quickly. When it's time to close up shop, I usually stay and make sure everything is in the right place and nothing has gone missing. Usually, nothing goes amiss, but I noticed something strange. I honestly don't know how to describe the feeling, just something felt off. I looked around closer and realized that the Yeezys I had on display were missing. Like I said, I do sell expensive shoes, but I keep those in the bag since they are much more rare and expensive, and I don't want them to go through the same wear and tear of people trying on shoes as if they were out on the shelves. However, I do keep a not-for-sale pair on display though to signify to customers that I do have them available. I was shocked since no one had ever tried to steal them before. I looked through the security camera, but it was so crowded that I couldn't really pinpoint who took the Yeezys. I got my answer the next day though. The next day Karen returned to the shop, looking triumphant. It was a weekday, so it was not as busy. Karen had her phone on and she was talking to the camera. I asked her if the shoes were alright and she said yes, but that is not what she was here for. Karen dug into her purse and dumped out a pile of what looked like shredded fabric. Karen then announced to the camera that I was a scammer who was trying to con my customers out of money by having them pay tons of money for fake shoes and that she was protesting my shop. She then explained straight up that the pile was the pair of fake Yeezys I had on display. I was completely in shock. These were $3,000 shoes. I told her that she was absolutely crazy and that they were not fake. Luckily, one of my employees called the police while she was rambling and they came quickly to arrest her. She kept protesting that she did nothing wrong. I believe she was still streaming too, so the arrest was all caught on camera until the police noticed and turned it off. The police brought Karen down to the station while I remained at the shop answering their questions. After the police left, I decided to close the shop up early. A couple days after, I received a notice that I had to go to court in order to testify against Karen. I'll spare you the details, but I basically rehashed the story to the court, and I also proved that the Yeezys were in fact real and very expensive by providing them with an old shipment log. I think the saddest thing about this was that Karen criminalized herself. I don't mean by just committing the act, but actually live streaming herself doing it on social media. Because of the investigation, the police were able to access the live stream. Not sure how it works really, but I'm guessing through an archive or something. And the live stream clearly showed Karen talking about the store in her car before she entered the mall and recorded her confession about the stolen Yeezys. They unanimously decided that Karen was guilty. She was charged with felony vandalism and property damage. Karen was forced to pay the entire price of the Yeezys back to me, as well as a few fines to avoid jail time. Karen was already hated enough in our neighborhood as it was, but after this, everyone found her to be crazy and began to truly avoid her. She became reclusive and now I barely see her. I sort of feel bad, but I know it was not my fault and that she brought that on herself. Also, I'm not really sure what her intentions were with the live streaming, but the mess she made in my store, but I'm assuming that she wanted to give my business a bad reputation and have it go bankrupt or something like that. Unfortunately for her, the story made it onto the local news, and because of how crazy it all was, everyone has been visiting the store and my business has been booming more than ever. I get a bunch of kids now who come inside and ask me, "Is this the store where that crazy lady went berserk?" Some of my customers are people from other cities who want to visit for God knows what reason. There's honestly nothing special about the store other than the incident with Karen, but they treat it like a pilgrimage. But anyway, I now make 2 times as much sales as I used to, all thanks to Karen. But with all this new publicity and business, the shop is getting crowded now, so I was thinking of expanding to another section of the mall. I don't want to have to pay for a whole other lease and then have the business die down, but if the flow continues for the next few months, then I will have to expand for sure. We will have to see. I really don't know why Karen was so adamant on hating my shop, but I guess I have to thank her for the boom in business. And yeah guys, props to P for making the best of the situation. I highly doubt that it was Karen's intention for OP to get more sales, but then again, you gotta take things as they come. Either way, the next one is titled "Client Did Not Pay Me, So I Made His Life Hell." And this one is a story from r/Revenge Stories, which is a new subreddit for revenge stories. So I once had a new client not pay me. I opened my business 3 months prior and I was struggling. I needed the money and agreed to take payment on the Friday as they needed to add me on the system. I had a small B&B and he had a contract in the area, dinner, bed and breakfast for a bunch of people for 6 days, and then they left in the middle of the night. I tried getting the money from him for 6 months. Well, this was just after my dad passed and I had to take care of my mom. It was also 2 months before my wedding. The result was that I couldn't pay a few bills and I had to loan money. It took me years to pay it off because we were struggling. The following 8 years, I would call him on private number in the middle of the night. I set alarms and called him to wake him, or when I would wake up to pee, I would call him until he disconnected his number. I registered this number and email on every spam adult video website I could find. I wrote bad reviews using his full name and business all over the internet until I heard it closed down. Commented that he's a thief of every Facebook image he uploaded until he made his profile private. When that happened, I would message his friends that he stole from me. I messaged every one of them. His business was in another city and I googled the area and called all his neighbors and told them that he sells drugs out of his shop. I'm pretty sure I've caused him more damage than the money he still owes me. Now my business is established and I make good money, but I will never forget the dude that kicked me when I was at my lowest point. And the next one is another crazy revenge story that is titled "Steal a Parking Spot from a Disabled Person? Pay up, Karen." And by the way, if you enjoy these little revenge stories, then please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel because that helps me tremendously in fighting back against the AI revolution on YouTube. Real voice creators are getting pushed to the side, and by liking and subscribing, you can work against that. Anyway, last week I went to Costco to run some errands. I have a GI condition which allows me to park in the disabled parking space, so I start the parking in one of the only spots until I see a van which also has a disability placard hanging from their mirror. I figured since they have a van, they must have a person in need of a wheelchair inside, so I figured I can walk a few more feet, so they deserve this spot more than me. I started backing out my car when all of a sudden this happened. As I backed out to give the van space to park, a woman in a pristine Cadillac sedan without a disabled parking placard whips in between my car and the van to park in the disabled parking spot. Both the driver in that van and I were pissed, understandably so, but she was the only one who got out of her car and let the lady have it. I'm usually the pick your own battles type of person, so I backed off but still watched from a distance. Karen then starts going off on her, probably projecting, so I couldn't hear everything that was being said, but I knew no matter what it was, you could not defend her actions. I did notice that on her bumper was a Canadian license plate and we live in Florida. This will come into play a bit later, but at the time I thought it was funny given the fact that people stereotype Canadians as being overtly friendly, which was the polar opposite of this lady's demeanor. So then Canada Karen storms off inside to do her shopping or whatever, and the van lady picked up her phone and started calling someone, probably the police. I had wanted to tell her that she'd be better off getting an employee because it would take a long time for dispatch to send someone here, since honestly our PD is usually lazy as hell and Karen would have already been gone by then, but very strangely enough, it did not even take more than 5 minutes for one of the patrol units to show up. Canada Karen did not even arrive back at her car until a few minutes after the cop showed up. This time, I was outside giving the police officer my side of the story, considering I was a witness. Canada Karen CK of course got into a tiff and here's how it went. "Officer, ma'am, do you understand that 1, you almost hit these 2 vehicles, and number 2, you cannot park in a disabled parking spot if you're not authorized or don't have a placard?" Canada Karen: "Oh no, you're entirely misreading the situation. These 2 were fighting over the spot and while they were here, I just pulled in. No harm done, right?" Damn, the gaslighting. OP: no, I was letting her park because she needed the spot more than I did. While I motioned over at van lady's grandson to hopefully give her a hint, he had cerebral palsy and is wheelchair bound. CK: "Clearly, you don't even look disabled." Ah yes, a typical Karen phrase. "If she could park here, then why can't I park here too?" Officer: "Ma'am, I noticed you have Ontario plates. How long have you been here in the States?" Canada Karen starts sweating bullets. She probably thought that he was gonna question her legal status or something. CK: Well, you see, I moved in with my husband. He's American and… Officer, ma'am, this car is registered to you, not your husband, and you have not answered my question. How long have you lived here in the States? CK, about a year. Big mistake. Officer, ma'am, you understand that according to Florida law, any non-US citizen living in the States longer than a 6-month period must register their vehicle within 10 days of entering the country, correct? If Karen's jaw dropped any lower at that moment, it would have fallen off. Officer, I'm afraid I will have to write you up on a $500 fine for inability to register within 10 days of entry. Additionally, a $250 fine for unauthorized parking in a disability parking space. When they handed Canada Karen her ticket, she snatched it out of his hand and stormed back into her car, still angry but now more embarrassed. Before I left the scene, to finally go shopping, I went up to Van Lady and asked her if she needed any more help. She said she was alright and then thanked me. I told her it was amazing how quickly the cops showed up, and then she laid this on me. Apparently, she did not dial 911. No, she called her son, who was the police chief of our town, who just so happened to be her grandson's, the boy with cerebral palsy's father. As a mom who has a son on the spectrum, I know this more than anything. Hell hath no fury like a parent when their child with special needs is mistreated. Once he heard that this bad crap crazy lady stole a parking spot from his own son, who needed that spot and was not able to defend himself, he immediately had a squad car sent out to hopefully de-escalate the situation, and our police station was just up the road. Luckily though, once Karen left with a $750 a-hole tax in tow, Van Lady and her grandson were able to park in the spot and continue on with their day, and me with mine. Moral of the story: don't create drama if you don't want karma. This story is titled, It's Gonna Be a Long One, Effin' Stuart. It all started when I bought my condo in San Diego, California. The escrow was delayed because of legal issues regarding a flooring issue. I was told Stuart, the downstairs unit who was also the president of the HOA, had a lawyer trying to say that there was not enough padding in between the newly installed vinyl plank flooring. The previous owner was a bedridden older lady, so she did not walk around much, I guess. My first experience with Stuart was like this. On Thursday, September 5th at around 12:40 p.m, I was walking to my car. I saw Stuart, my downstairs neighbor, and said hi as I put my gym bag in my car. Stuart walked towards me and I said, I hope everything is good. I have not seen you in a while. Stuart said, yes, we have had some health problems. I said, let me know if you need anything. As I walked towards the back of my car, Stuart then started interrogating me. Stuart said, I have something personal to ask you. What do you do? Are you retired or on disability? I'm assuming he asked this because I have a service dog, and I said, I'm a scientist. Stuart, for the Navy? I said, yes, a civilian. Stuart, when do you go to work? I looked at my watch because I needed to go, and I was getting uncomfortable by the line of questioning. Stuart said, do you need to go? I said, yeah. Then Stuart said, so did you have financial responsibility for the flooring now? I said, yes, because when I moved in, the HOA lawyer had no response really for the flooring. All the lawyer told me was that the flooring met the padding of the HOA standards. I have not heard anything besides me personally calling the lawyer before I moved in because I closed on the condo and I was ready to move in since my apartment lease expired. Stuart said, that is because I have not made any noise about it. I hear your dogs walking back and forth all day. I said, yeah, he walks around during the day. I had carpet added so you would hear it less, but it is a bottom unit so there will be some noise. I just moved from a house to an apartment to a condo and Stuart interrupted me and said, do you have copies of all the flooring documentation? I said, yeah, Stuart. Would you send that to me? I said, I will check to see what information I can give you. Is that why you were asking all those questions? Stuart said, I like to get information on everyone, because I know everyone around here. I think if she was lying about the floor, then we can both go after her. I have a copy that you can use. I said, yeah, I gotta go. I'll look up that information. And he gave me his number if I had any questions. I just wanted to get this interaction reported and on paper because I felt a little threatened and interrogated, because he knows everyone. And also, I want to feel safe in my own place even if I live over the HOA president. I reported him to the property management company and they said that everything was resolved and that their lawyer sent a letter to Stuart telling him my flooring was up to the standard in the CC&Rs. After this incident, a couple of neighbors told me Stuart was asking about me. Then I had someone move into the room to rent. One day he said that Stuart stopped him and said that my dog was howling and that he was walking around all day scratching at the floor. I have a security camera with a sound alert. Duke, my dog, literally sleeps all day, and if he gets up, it's to drink water. Then, a couple of weeks later, Stuart stopped my roommate again and said that I needed to get a shock collar because he's been barking all day, which is also a lie. I have video footage to prove it. And then my second incident with Stuart happened. The second incident was reported on October 12th, and this is what was said. I was coming home and parking in my garage. When I was getting out of my car, Stuart walked by my garage. Stuart said hi. I said, "Don't effing say hi to me because you decide to go behind my back and talk to my friends about the flooring issue that is not an issue." Stuart said, "I'm sorry, did I offend you?" As he was walking closer, the little white dog he was walking started barking and lunging at Duke. We could not go anywhere because I had just parked my car, so we were in the 1.5 foot space in between my car and the garage wall. I said, "Get the F out of my garage." He said, "Can I say something?" I said, "No, the F you cannot. Leave me and whoever the F comes to my door, whether it's my friends or effing Postmates. Don't talk to them about me or my floor or my service dog." Stuart said, "But can I say one thing?" I said, "No, get out of my garage. You have no effing say at all about the flooring issue, and you have sure as hell no way to tell me to put a bark collar on my service dog, dude. Get out of my way because I want to get the F out of my garage." And I don't think Stuart said anything and then walked away. I reported this to the property management and they in turn reported it to the HOA board except Stuart. They came back and said that Stuart would not be involved in any of my HOA issues and he was told to leave me alone. Then, in 2020, my gas bathroom started leaking down to his unit. It was a pivot stop or something. I had an emergency plumber come out and fix it after I turned off the water. Then I contacted my insurance. The total damage was around $23,000. My home insurance said that I needed to do a claim through the HOA insurance because the CC&Rs show they cover some of the damage. I reached out to the property management company to submit a claim. They asked the HOA board, including Stuart, and they denied it, stating it was not their responsibility. I told them that they are not an insurance adjuster, so they cannot say that it is not their responsibility when it is stated in the CC&Rs. My home insurance disagreed with them as well, and they said they would not move forward unless the HOA insurance company denied it. So after going nowhere for a month, I reached out to the HOA insurance directly. They approved my team and reviewed the CC&Rs and said they did cover it. After a few months and an insurance adjuster coming out, they sent a check to the HOA board and approved an amount of $13,000 minus the $10,000 deductible. After the HOA insurance said that they submitted that to the HOA board and it cleared their account, I reached out to the HOA board and property management company and they said they would not send it out to me because they still don't believe it was their responsibility. So now in September they've been dealing directly with their insurance and they dropped the entire amount to $220 to what they believe they will cover. Update: to make this short and sweet, I am now writing this almost a year later and the internal structure of the HOA board has completely changed. The old HOA president was voted out due to fraud and embezzlement and the new board is much easier to deal with and it seems like they are a decent bunch. They acknowledged my situation and have taken responsibility. I was paid the full amount I was owed, thank God. HOAs apparently don't always have to be awful. And the last one is a petty revenge story that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "From 5 stars to jail bars, I threw my sister in jail." So technically she's my half-sister, but moving forward I'd been trying to get a restraining order against my mother, her husband and my half-sister. So with everything I had it should have been a done deal, but the judge thought otherwise and denied it. Before we left the courtroom my lawyer asked to put a statement on the record which was that I had all the power and if they showed up on my property that I have the right to get them arrested. I told him I understood and then looked directly at them and said, "If you show up on my property, I will not ask you to leave or tell you to leave. I will just call the police, you will be arrested and I will press charges for trespassing." A little background info on my sister: she is spoiled. My parents put all their money and efforts on her and is now biting them in the rear. Read prior posts on my family to get a better understanding, but the long story: we come from money, she was the chosen one, she got everything, and I built my own life. Well, I'm getting ready to move and have been packing, and she showed up yesterday. I did exactly as I told them I would. I did not ask or tell, I just called 911 and explained the situation. The police showed up, asked her what was going on, and she said I was her brother and that she wanted to talk. I told the police and her that she had no business being her and to arrest her, and I was pressing full charges, and they did just that. Honestly, I feel nothing. The level of hatred I have for her is dangerous. She has treated me like less than any kind of living human being my entire life. She also thrives on this. I feel like I was perfectly justified in doing this. They knew what would happen if any of them showed up, so F around and find out. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you again tomorrow.